So this is the Tudor Black Bay 58, one of the most talked about watches of modern times. It's a 39mm vintage-inspired time-only dive watch offering 200 meters of water resistance, 70 hours of power reserve and an excellent in-house movement. The watch is now coming up for 6 years old, and the question is simple. Is this still the best vintage-inspired dive watch you can buy for under £4,000? And is this still worth considering over the ultra-vintage Black Bay 54? Let's talk about it. So the Black Bay 58 comes in with a bezel diameter of 38.8mm and a case diameter of 39mm. It has a thickness of 11.8mm, made up of a 1.3mm case back, 6mm flat mid case, 3mm bezel and 1.3mm of crystal. The lug-to-lug dimension comes in at 47.5mm and has a 20mm spacing between the lugs. The weight on the steel bracelet comes in at 134 grams. This overall dimension set is pretty much perfect, especially if you have a wrist of 7 inches or less. The balance weight and the overall way that it sits on wrist is simply phenomenal. Compared to the larger 41mm Black Bays, this is just in another league personally when it comes to wearability. The case design is mid-century Tudor Rolex, meaning flat case sides, no crown guards and delightful beveled lugs. Made from 316L stainless steel, the sides of the case and bevels are all of high polish, with the lug tops satin brushed. The overall quality of the case construction has been incredibly well executed. One point of note is that the ends of the lugs taper to a point. This is actually quite sharp when you run your finger over it. That being said, it can't be felt when the watch is on your wrist. Like the entire Black Bay range, the 58 comes with a standard coin-edge 60-click bezel and aluminium insert. On the Black Dial variant, the bezel is also black. It has a pleasant satin finish with gold or gilt coloured markings. At 12, we have a red triangle with pearl insert, harking back to some of the early Rolex and Tudor Submariners. The first 15 minutes get individual minute markings, switching to alternating rectangles and numerals for every 5 minutes thereafter. The teeth on the bezel edge are small and of high polish, resulting in good grip, but only if your hands are dry. In experience, it can be hard to rotate if you have any sort of moisture on your fingers. The feel of the bezel action is excellent, producing a firm, crisp, precise action as it moves. Whether you like the design or colour scheme is subjective, but one thing to note is that the bezel is prone to scratching. I've worn this watch as a daily driver for the best part of 2 years, and the bezel has held up well. The raised sapphire does provide some knot protection, but the risk of denting or scratching the insert is always there. The crystal itself is sapphire, it measures 30.5mm across, is box cut and has a slight dome. There is no anti-reflective coating on either side. It provides a high level of scratch resistance and being raised also protects the bezel from most off-axis blows. The shape of the sapphire adds to the overall vintage look of the watch. The 58 features the same style crown at 3 o'clock as the rest of the Black Bay range. It's made from steel, features the same coin edge as the bezel and is screwed down. The crown is mostly of high polish and features a raised Tudor rose logo on its face. As I mentioned in the recent GMT review, I'm a big fan of the rose logo, mostly as its design is symmetrical and doesn't look misaligned when screwed in, say like the crown on this Rolex Sea Dweller. When unscrewed, the crown has 2 positions of operation. In the first, we can simply hand wind the movement if required. In the second, we can hack the balance and set time to a reference. Overall, the crown is well made, featuring no play in the stem and minimal dead angle when operating, all adding to a premium feel. So with this particular example being the Black Dial variant, we get the same matte black, slightly textured base as the majority of the Black Bay line. Around the outer edge we have a half railway track for reading minutes and seconds printed in gold. Next we have the standard Tudor Rolex inspired applied indices, with an inverted triangle at 12, rectangles at each 15-minute mark and circles in between. All indices are made of steel but feature the same gold colour scheme. They also feature off-white lume plots giving a slight faux patina vibe. Honestly, I don't mind this off-white lume at all, especially on this colour variant, and the fact the overall design is heavily vintage inspired. When it comes to text, we have a Tudor shield, Tudor and Geneve all below 12, followed by 200 meters, 660 feet, chronometer and officially certified above 6. As normal, we get the word Swiss made at the very bottom. The overall dial has been well executed, invoking memories of those early Tudor and Rolex subs. Also, in normal Tudor fashion, we get the same hand setup that we've become used to, a pencil minute hand and 2 snowflake hands for hours and seconds. As I mentioned in the recent Black Bay GMT review, I've got no issues with the snowflake hands at all. I know they aren't everyone's cup of tea, but they're traditional to Tudor's past, iconic, and just different. They in no way offend me. On this example, all hands are made from steel, gold in colour and all of high polish. They reflect light well and are easily readable in all lighting conditions. All of the hands feature the same off-white lume as the indices. All lume glows green in dark conditions. Like the majority of Tudors, the 58 comes with a plain, somewhat boring, solid caseback, made of 316L stainless steel. It's all brushed silver in colour and features the traditional ring of teeth for opening with a tool. We also get the same Tudor Geneve and caliber manufacturer engravings around the edge. The case back is screwed down and helps the watch achieve its 200 meters of water resistance. The only other points to note on the back of the watch are serial numbers engraved into the case. So the Black Bay 58 is available with 3 strap options. Here we have the steel bracelet. It's a traditional 3-link oyster design, again made from 316L stainless steel, and features a predominantly all brushed aesthetic, with polishing being reserved to the link sides, which is nice as they blend well with the polished sides of the case. So to the faux rivets. I've spoken about this in another video too, but like the snowflake hands, they really don't offend me. I actually quite like them. Yes, they're fake, but this is a vintage styled watch, taking inspiration from early riveted bracelets, so aesthetically they're correct and work well. If Tudor had put rivets on, say, the Pelagos, I'd 100% be in the other camp of opinion. They absolutely wouldn't suit a watch with a more modern design, but here and on the other vintage inspired Black Bays they belong, at least visually. We get the vintage look but with modern manufacturing techniques, so win-win. Plus they fade into obscurity on wrist, where the bracelet feels phenomenal. It's well made, well finished, with great ventilation and no pulling of hair. All removable links are fixed by screws for an upmarket feel. We have a conforming female end link mating it to the case, allowing the bracelet to fall straight down and not extend the overall dimension of the watch across the wrist. The bracelet starts at 20mm at the case and tapers or steps down to 16mm at the clasp. Overall, it's well made and is a joy to wear. At the time of filming, the Black Bay 58 comes with the older style clasp, meaning we don't get the excellent T-fit adjustment system. That's not to say it's bad. It's made from stainless steel, has the same mostly brushed finish with polished sides, and forms the Tudor Shield logo when closed. It's a deployment style with thick gauge steel sections, which are nicely polished and feature Tudor Geneve engravings. For security, we have a traditional diving clamshell lock with Tudor wording. We also get ceramic ball bearing clips for a secure, long-lasting action. When it comes to adjustment, we get the traditional drilled holes in the flanks, allowing for 3 points of micro adjustment with a strap tool. Powering the Black Bay 58 is the Tudor MT5402, a scaled down version of the movement used in the 41mm Black Bay range, designed specifically for this watch. Fair play to Tudor for doing this. Manufacturing new movements isn't easy or cheap, but the payoff has been more than worth it. People far and wide were calling for a thinner, more compact Black Bay. Tudor listened and did all that was required to make it happen. The MT5402 is thinner, measuring 6.5mm. It has the same 70-hour power reserve as its bigger brother, along with a silicone hairspring for protection against magnetism. We also get the same 28,800 vibrations per hour, 27 joules and COSC certification. Tudor rates this watch as being able to run no worse than -2 to +4 seconds per day, beating the COSC's -4 to +6 seconds. The movement certainly isn't high horology. Finishing is pretty much non-existent, but it is tough and ridiculously accurate for the price. When it comes to timekeeping, Tudor are never going to outdo Rolex on paper, but seriously, in the real world, the difference is negligible. I've been lucky enough to wear a variety of Tudor models for extended periods of time, and I'm always shocked at how well they perform. So, wearability. I'm going to be slightly biased as this is my personal watch, which I've owned for just over 2 years. On my 6.5-inch wrist, it's simply perfection. The 47mm lug-to-lug, 11.7mm thickness, and 39mm diameter are just that, perfect. For me, it's the benchmark, a watch I compare all others to, especially when I consider adding something new to my collection. Things like the female articulating end link, amount of bracelet taper, and the size of the clasp only add to the wearing experience. Vintage styling isn't for everyone, but in terms of wearability, this is seriously hard to beat, especially if you have a wrist between 5.5 and 7 inches. The closest Rolex in terms of fit would be the 40mm Yachtmaster in my opinion. For a full review of that watch, click on the pop-out banner above or follow the link in the description below. The Black Bay 58 is available in 4 types of material and 5 colour options across the range. In steel, we have this black and gilt version or a blue dial and blue bezel variant. Both are available on leather, NATO or bracelet, starting at $3,170 and rising up to $3,450. Next, we have the bronze version. The case, bracelet and clasp are all made from solid bronze and cost £4,190. It's only available from Tudor boutiques but does come with a complimentary NATO strap. Then we have the solid silver version, known as the 925. This is only available on a leather or NATO strap, coming in at £4,000. Finally, we have the solid gold version. Its price of £15,500 makes it a rarity, but does feature a lovely green dial and bezel. Although again, I think they bundle in a NATO. Obviously, you're paying for a solid lump of gold, hence the price, but for that sort of cash, there are way better watches. The 925 silver version is probably the most compelling, as you're still getting precious metal, but for a premium of less than £1,000. For me, it's the steel watches all day long. You can't go wrong with black or blue, and the package just feels right for the price. So, onto 5 not so good things about the Tudor Black Bay 58. The brush finish of the lug tops doesn't quite match the brushing of the end link of the bracelet. There's one degree of colour or tone separation. You can't see it all the time, but once you notice it, you see it all the time. It might be hard to see in this video, but the mismatch is there. The aluminium bezel is prone to scratching. I know it's vintage inspired, but as a daily wear, I'd prefer it to be ceramic. The coin edge bezel. I love its design, but the fine teeth do make it hard to grip when your hands are wet or sweaty. Again, this is only in certain situations. Most of the time, it's excellent. No T-fit adjustment on the clasp. The clasp of the 58 again looks vintage and suits the watch well, but once you've tried T-fit or Rolex's glide lock, it's so hard to go back. It really should be standard on all models. Fingers crossed Tudor include this on any future 58 updates. Finally, and specific to the black dial version, I'm going to mention the gold or gilt coloured text on the bezel. This colour gives the watch a more sophisticated look and feel. I'm not going to say dressy, but definitely more sophisticated. It won't be for everyone and can look a bit washed out in dim lighting. Gun to head, would I prefer the bezel markings to be silver? Yes, but it's not a deal breaker. So now for all that's good. The overall wearability. Again, it's simply fantastic, especially on a smaller wrist. The female end links work wonders at keeping the overall dimension shorter across the wrist. It really is a joy to wear. The reduced thickness. The 14.6mm slab sides and 50mm lug to lug of the 41mm Black Bays are its Achilles heel. The redesigned 58 fixes both, offering an almost perfect height and profile. The build quality. Like all Tudors, the fit and finish is excellent. It's built like a tank and feels like it would absolutely outlast its owner. It feels like a proper tool watch that could pretty much face any situation. The red triangle at 12. This is a delightful touch and harks back to early models of the Tudor and Rolex subs. Against the black, it just adds a delightful pop of subtle colour. The vintage design. Again, it's not for everyone, but if you're a lover of vintage watches from the wider Rolex family, this gives you 98% of the look, without the downside of insane costs and temperamental build quality. It's a phenomenal homage to a 50s dive watch. So what's the verdict, and how does it compare to the recent Black Bay 54? Well, it comes down to this. Is the 37mm diameter of the Black Bay 54 too small? And do you already own a 58? If you don't own either and you can make 37mm work, I'd personally say get the 54. That watch is the perfect homage to early Tudor and Rolex dive watches. It features all the modern Tudor tech and a near spot-on historical dimension set to those very first Submariners. Plus it has the T-fit adjustment and no gilt markings on the bezel. If I didn't own a 58, the 54 would probably be the one to buy. I say probably as it would take me some time to get used to the 37mm diameter, but I do own a 58 and I'm not going to swap it. 39mm is spot on for my wrist, and although T-fit is excellent and I do prefer the silver bezel markings, they don't amount to enough to justify the upgrade. I'd be lucky to get 2k for the 58 on the second-hand market, so I'd need to find about £1,300 to make the change happen. To me, that's not worth it. The 58 is still a phenomenal watch, and if 37mm is too small for you, this is the one to get without any question. It's a modern watch icon. Guys, thank you so much for watching. What are your thoughts on the Tudor Black Bay 58? Do you prefer this over the standard 41mm Black Bay and the new 37mm 54? What would you consider as an alternative from a different brand? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, please be sure to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next review, and we'll catch you in the next video.